Thank you for coming back. This is the third week of our holistic healing. I really appreciate that you love and honor this process that we have. You know that the Goddess Commune is doing wellness work. We are trying to reach out to the community of women to change the disparities in healthcare and health outcomes for women of color and Black women. So our work is really about building community, creating spaces, developing learning experiences, and helping families thrive, Black families and families of color. For those of you who are new, I'm Francine Olivia Shakir, the founder of the Goddess Commune, and I want us to begin our meeting with a meditation, keeping in memory the women, men, boys and girls who have been violently taken from us by hateful acts, and those whose lives have been lost during this COVID-19 pandemic. I want to start with a short meditation to get us all centered. And I want to thank Shelley Stamps for sharing this meditation with us. So if we can all just sit comfortably in our seats or lie down or make any adjustments to your body that you feel are necessary to get as comfortable as possible. And as you settle, allowing your body permission to relax, I invite you to lay or just sit comfortably, close your eyes, begin to connect with your breath. I want you to simply notice the rhythm of your breath as you inhale and exhale. Take a deep breath in and out, and another deep breath in, holding this breath for a few moments, and then breathing out, tuning into the energies of gratitude, expressing gratitude for the women of our past who kept their healing traditions alive, tuning into the energies of harmony, balance, wholeness, joy, playfulness, abundance, inspiration, courage, fearlessness, and liberation. Connecting to your heart space, express gratitude for the women in the room today who bring their knowledge, their love, and healing powers into our communities each day. Tuning into the energies of passion, clarity, transformation. Tuning in deeply into the energy of unconditional love, compassion, and radical forgiveness in all directions. Expressing gratitude for the women who will keep our ancestral traditions alive well into the future. And then take another deep, slow breath in and breathe out. And connecting to your heart space again, remembering yourself as an infinite being, that you're unlimited and divine. You as an infinite being feel great love and deep compassion for the human experience. Asking ourselves, what is your ideal relationship with your community? How would you like to support them? How would you like to love them? And how would you like to be loved and supported? Taking another deep breath in and out. One more deep breath. Inhaling in and exhaling out. And when you're ready, bringing your awareness back to the room. Opening your eyes gently. Relaxing your body. And thank you all for being with us today. Giving thanks again. Ashe. Thank you, everyone.
That was beautiful.
Well, that was Shelley. So thank you. So if everyone other than Oriyomi and Chief Ifadunke would mute their microphones, that would be great. And I'm going to do a quick introduction to our first speakers. I will start with Oriyomi because she will begin her piece, which is really critical to helping us to move into our healing and understanding our chakras, forgive me. So Oriyomi Omobalanu is a sister I've known for decades. She's a quiet spirit who carries her powerful medicine and insight into her healing all the time. She remains one of my closest and most humble daughters in healing. Oriyomi is a native of Oakland and a co-founder of Oshun Wellness. She's a level 3 Reiki Tumo practitioner, and she's also trained in levels 1 and 2 of Ra Seiki Reiki. Am I saying that correctly, Oriyomi?
Yes, Ra Seiki.
Okay. She uses this form of energy work to support people in clearing and balancing their chakras, as well as breaking up stagnant energy in the body. She's also been trained in Yoni Steaming, and she's very excited about the benefits that the Yoni Steaming ancient healing practice will offer women. She is delightfully interested in the intersectionality of Eastern and Western healing practices, as well as those rooted on African spirituality. And so her approach to healing is grounded in the belief that her role as a practitioner is to support others in tapping into the healing within themselves. So I want us all to welcome Oriyomi, and then following Oriyomi will be Ifadunke, and I'll do an introduction to Ifadunke as well. So Oriyomi, without further ado, we're welcoming you.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? I changed from my earbuds to just the computer. Can you hear me?
If everyone is good, then you can give a thumbs up or whatever.
Thank
you. I'm saying
yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Greetings, everyone. As Olivia stated, I am a practitioner of mental health as well. I'm a social worker, but in my studies and in my practice and in my personal experiences, I wanted to find treatment modalities that would be more accessible to our community, especially in terms of the stigma that's attached to mental health and therapy, counseling, in our community specifically. And so in my process of trying to search for different modalities of treatment, Reiki is something that I found to be very effective. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Reiki and the chakras and how we use those things for healing with Oshun Wellness. Let me bring up my screen. Olivia, it looks like you have to enable screen sharing.
Okay, let me. Okay. Okay, it may take a second, but I've made the adjustments. Apologies. So hopefully it'll come up soon. There we go.
Okay. So Reiki, the healing power of universal energy. And I'm going to click through these slides, but there will be some space for communication and questions as we're going along. How many people are familiar with Reiki? And I say that not able to look at everyone's pictures. Okay.
Oriyomi, do you want to put this on a different setting so that it's slideshow? So that for the PowerPoint, because right now it's showing the individual slides to the left. Did you want to do the setting differently?
Yeah, just 1 second. Is that better? I can't tell what you guys can see. I can't tell.
Okay, and I don't think that's fine. It's fine. I don't think that I'm able to adjust your slide. So go on. We can still see the slide. So.
Yeah, on my other screen, I can see it, just the screen itself. What about everyone else?
Well, we can still see it. It's just the view. It's set. It's fine. Custom slideshow. So it's okay. we'll work it out.
Okay.
Okay.
That's weird. I'm sorry, because on my screen, I can see there's another screen being projected and I can see the whole thing from here. So I don't know. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And forgive me because this is my first virtual training. I usually do this in person. So what is Reiki Tumo? Reiki consists of the Japanese words rei and ki, and rei meaning universal and ki meaning chi, vital energy. And Tumo is inner fire. And so it's part of the Kundalini energy that sits at the base of our bodies. And so Reiki Tumo then brings those two energy forces together for a more expansive healing energy. And so there's different forms of Reiki. One of the most common ones is Reiki UC. And is it UC? Is that how you pronounce it? Reiki UC? I'm asking Ifadunke. But the form that Ifadunke and I use is the Reiki Tumo. And so this is just a visual perspective of how regular base Reiki works in terms of the upper body going into the lower chakras, and then the Kundalini energy, the Tumo energy working from the base up. And then with the Reiki Tumo, it's more expansive, touching on the higher and lower chakras. And we'll talk about the chakras more in a moment. And so why do people use Reiki? People use Reiki to feel balanced in their bodies, in their minds, in their spirits. It helps with relaxation. It dissolves energy blocks, allowing for energy to flow more smoothly through your body. It helps with the cleansing of your system of toxins, both emotional and physical toxins. It clears the mind. It helps to accelerate healing in the body. And it also helps with pain and spiritual growth. And so we use we use Reiki to help clear the chakras, and we'll talk more about why it's important for those chakras to be cleared. Anyone have any questions about Reiki itself before I move on to discussing the chakras? And I can't see people, so if there are any questions, if someone can let me know, because I can't see.
I don't see any questions here.
Okay, thank you. And so what are chakras? So chakras are energy centers in our body, and there's thousands of them within our body. Most people connect the term chakra with some type of religious context, but it's really not. There is no religious ties to chakras, but it is most familiarized with Hinduism and Buddhism. Oh, okay. So I don't know. Okay. And so, although there are thousands of chakras in the body, we focus on 7 primary chakras. And so the 7 primary chakras are the crown chakra, the third eye chakra, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, the solar plexus, the sacral, also known as the womb chakra or the navel chakra, and then the root chakra, also known as the base chakra. And so the crown chakra at the top of your head is really connected to our connection with the divine. And so that's where we get our messages, information from the higher spirit, from the ancestors. So it's a very important, all of the chakras are important to stay clear, but that one in particular, because of the valuable messages that we receive from the universe, comes through the crown chakra. And so when the crown chakra has a block, then that can manifest as depression or other psychological problems. It can prevent us from getting those messages, right? And so if we're trying to make decisions, if we're trying to get clarity about things in our life, then we will have struggles with that if the crown chakra is blocked. And so we connect the crown chakra with the color violet. And the reason why it's important to know the color is that when you're trying to clear a chakra, using colors aligned with the chakras is very important. And so whether that be a physical color that you cover your head with, or a crystal that you want to use to meditate with to clear that, you want to use a color that's connected to the chakra. So for the crown, it is violet. The sixth chakra is the third eye chakra, also known as the brow chakra because of its location. And for this one, it's also connected to the spiritual aspect because it's one of the upper chakras. It's also connected to spirit. It's connected to our intuition. It's connected with our wisdom. And then blockages in this area could prevent us from being able to use our intuition. So it's a situation where sometimes you get that gut feeling, or you get that little inkling to tell you to do something and you don't follow it. If you do that often enough, it can create a block. If there's already a block there, then you won't get those messages. And so sometimes that can cause you to step into issues and problems and concerns that you might not necessarily do if you had a clear chakra and your intuition was heightened. This also connects with depression and memory issues if it's blocked as well. So it's very connected to the crown chakra. The fifth chakra is our throat chakra, and it's connected with communication, self-expression. I like to connect it to your sense of truth, our sense of truth, being able to speak our truth, share our feelings and thoughts and emotions. And a block in this area can come up with manifesting as creative blocks. It can manifest in physical ways like throat issues, communication issues, where you're holding your tongue. You can have issues showing up there as well. And the color there is light blue or turquoise. The fourth chakra is our heart chakra. And it is in the center of your heart, and it's connected with love and compassion. It's also connected with your ability to give and receive your blessings in life. And blocks there are often connected to relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but any kind of relationships in your life. And it can also manifest in having physical problems. So when you hear the expression that someone died of a broken heart, that's really because there's that stuck energy there. There's a harboring of emotions there related to pain, emotional pain, and disharmony in relationship. and that color is green. At any time, if there's questions, please stop me, and I will stop and go further.
There are a couple questions, Oriyomi.
Okay. I can't see them.
Oh, okay. So let's see. So someone's saying just make it full screen, but we can still see it. Okay. So if you're able to make it full screen, if not, then this participant says that they can still see it. Another question is about the colors of the chakra and how those became associated with each chakra. And hearing that sleeping on a black pillowcase is not recommended because of the crown chakra and the color that's associated with it. Can you just say a couple of things about that?
So, you know, I honestly don't know how they became associated with the specific colors. But definitely sleeping on a black pillowcase is not suggested. Neither is wrapping your head in black if you're trying to clear that chakra. If you're trying to clear that chakra, then you don't want to wrap it in black, wear black hats, anything like that.
Thank you.
I'm still trying to figure out how to make it full screen. Haven't figured that out, so I apologize for that.
No worries.
So the solar plexus is really the center part of your body. So it's above the navel, below the heart. And that's really the center of your sense of self, your sense of being. Here it says that it's connected to your personal power, your laughter, your joy, your goals, your ambition. And so blocks here can show up as being unable to attain those goals, feelings of anger and frustration, feelings of low self-worth come sometimes if that area is blocked. You'll see that, and the color here is yellow. And then the sacral chakra, also known as the navel or the womb chakra, because we do a lot of work with women, we call it the womb chakra. And so that chakra is a center of creativity. It's connected to pleasure, emotion. I said creativity, and so not just creation in terms of creating life, but also just creation in terms of creating the outward manifestation of your dreams, your goals, your blessings in the world. And so blockages have a lot of different forms. Specifically for women, it can show up as fibroid tumors, it can show up as reproductive issues, it can show up as heavy menses, it can show up with depression. The womb chakra is a critical place for us, and we'll talk more about that in the second part of this presentation in terms of what comes up for women in particular, and why we use Reiki and the Yoni Steaming to really support the womb. So we'll talk more about that. And its color is orange. Oops, sorry about that. And the first chakra is the root chakra, which is at the base of the body. And it's connected to your sense of stability and safety, of groundedness. It's the one that's closest to the earth, which is why it's connected to groundedness. And so sometimes when a person might feel like they're flighty, like they can't really get a grasp on things, then that's usually a sign that the root chakra is unbalanced or closed. blocked. It's connected with our basic necessities of food and water and shelter. It's connected with our flight or fight. Why am I blanking on the word? The flight or just the flight or flight, right? In terms of when we have stress. And so that's another really important balance that, chakra that we have to keep balanced. And its color is red. And so along with Reiki, so Reiki is what we use to clear the chakras. And so the energy comes from the universe, and it is downloaded into Reiki practitioners. It's an attunement. And so we are able to harness the energy through our hands. And so what we do, we don't always have to touch people. It's not necessarily to do a physical touching. We can come in close proximity to the area that we're trying to clear. We can also do distance healing. That can, because the energy can travel, right? And so this energy, what we do is just ask that the person who is receiving the energy just be open to receiving the energy. We like to call on our ancestors because that's something that's indigenous to us. We often will ask our clients to call on their ancestors to join in the healing and the clearing of the chakras. And so we just go through each of the chakras to clear them. We also have ways to be able to test which chakras are open, which chakras are closed. And so we do that and then focus the energy in those areas. In addition to the Reiki, we also use crystals for their healing powers. And this is just a list of basic crystals that can be used. But there's so many other crystals. As long as you're focusing the colors with what's connected to each of the chakras, then you should be fine. And then there's others that are more specific that I won't go into. But with using the crystals, you could either hold them in your hand and do a meditation. So you would be meditating on that particular chakra while you're holding those crystals in your hand and envisioning them being cleared. Or you can actually put a crystal physically on those spots, especially if you're laying down, then you can just put them on those spots. For the crown chakra, you could put a crystal inside your pillowcase, under your pillow. You can sleep with it. You can carry them around in your pockets. So they're very useful as well in terms of clearing out the various chakras. And that is actually the end of the slides. And so if there are questions more specific that people would like to ask about Reiki or the chakras.
Would you repeat the third eye chakra once more, just so I'm clear about that one?
So the third eye chakra, it's connected to your intuition primarily. That's the biggest piece. And so making sure that it stays open ensures that you'll continue to get, you know how we say something told me to go left when I usually go right. So those messages usually come through our third eye chakra. And so if we have blockages there, then we won't get those messages. So we won't be able to have that internal insight, that spiritual insight that we need to make the best decisions for ourselves, to keep us out of harm's way. And it can also show up memory issues as well. when the third eye is blocked.
Oh, thank you. Do you see the next question?
Is distant healing offered by many healers?
And there's actually, yeah, and there's one before that. How do you,
Okay.
what do you do to balance or clear a blockage from a chakra?
So for that one, there's various ways. You can use Reiki, which is what we do. You can also use crystals, as I was just explaining, to either hold in meditation or to place on the chakras. There's other things you can do in terms of, like for the crown chakra would be meditation is really good in terms of keeping that clear. Wrapping your head in white is helpful. Putting cold water on your head is helpful to clear the crown chakra. For the third eye, again, Reiki and the crystals are going to do all of that. For the third eye, the other thing is to always follow that voice that tells you to do X when you usually would do Y. Because it's like a muscle. And so the more you follow your intuition, the stronger it will get and the more open it will be. And prayer and meditation will help with that as well. Third chakra is learning to be comfortable speaking your truth. And I know that can be hard because sometimes we can be so programmed and socialized to just stuff our feelings and our thoughts. But learning to communicate those more, writing out your thoughts. If you're not ready to verbalize them, at least writing them out and sharing with someone that you trust and are close with. That will help to open that up. For the heart chakra, is to remain open, right? There's a quote that I'm paraphrasing, but it's something about the best way to heal the heart is to love. And so usually when we've been hurt or injured emotionally, our reflex may be to close down, to shut down. But it's actually the more we open ourselves up, the more our heart heals, right? And obviously you want to use discernment with that. You want to know, who to open up to, how to open, and take it slowly in terms of what's comfortable for you, but really exercising that heart muscle is what's going to keep it open. For the solar plexus, a lot of positive affirmation in terms of your beliefs in yourself and your abilities and whatever goals you have in mind. So affirmation is really good to keep that going. And then just taking risk, right? Calculated risk, again, using discernment, taking risk in terms of you have a goal in mind, you have an idea, and going for it, right? Pushing past your fears. For your sacral chakra, for your womb chakra, besides the Reiki and the crystal work, the Yoni Steaming is huge, which is what Ifadunke will be talking about in just a moment. So I won't say much on that piece. She'll talk about it. And then for the root chakra, that groundedness, getting out in nature helps with that grounding. Walking around with nothing on your feet, barefoot, touching the earth with your feet, with your hands. So a lot of people are gardening right now because of the shelter in. So gardening is good because you're touching the soil. I know someone who gets a big, I'm looking around as if I have something here, but gets a big like planter bowl and puts soil on inside of it, and then she just rests her feet on that. So if she can't go out, she can still touch the soil with her feet. And then carrying crystals in your pockets help as well.
So someone asks, how do you go about finding a good healer, a chakra healing?
How do you go about finding a good healer. Always word of mouth is good. I mean, you can find listings like online, but I would say word of mouth is good if you know someone who's a practitioner. Ifadunke and I are Reiki practitioners. There are others in the Bay Area as well. So it shouldn't be difficult to find. It's just a matter of it being someone that you feel comfortable with, and then someone that has a reputation, like you've talked to other people who've worked with this practitioner. And I think I skipped, I want to go back to the one about the distance healing. A person does not have to touch you for Reiki. It's not necessary. There's some forms of Reiki where there is physical touch, but you can request not to be touched. And so even if I'm person to person with someone, I don't touch them. So I would like, I can be this far away with my hands, and that's going to be sufficient. I could be across the room and you're going to still feel, obviously if I'm face to face, you might feel the energy stronger. That doesn't mean that if I'm across the room or in another city, that doesn't mean it's not going to work necessarily. You just may not feel it as intensely as you do when the person is face to face. Yeah.
Someone's asking about having a bracelet made out of the stones with the colors of the chakras for areas where she has blockages to wear every day. Can you answer that?
Yeah, they have those. They definitely have those. Yep. And I'm someone who loves jewelry and I love natural stones. And so I will sometimes use the jewelry or the stones that I need that particular day, as in my, on my rings or on my necklace. So definitely jewelry can be healing, not just for adornment.
Can I ask a question about having to do the chat? Can you hear
What
me?
was that?
Can I ask a question without the chat? My question is detailed. This is
Yeah.
I had a Reiki experience some 20 years ago, and I still remember that experience because it was a very much a likeness, was a difference when I left that Reiki experience. So how would you explain that? And does that happen with everyone?
It should happen with almost everyone because that's the point of Reiki, is to clear. So when the energy starts flowing through your body and it's breaking those blockages, then the energy is flowing the way it should be in your body and you will feel lighter. Like your body will feel lighter, your mind will feel lighter.
From 20 years ago, I still remember that experience.
That's awesome.
That's something. Yeah.
So I'm looking at the time and I want to make sure that Ifadunke is able to do her presentation. So there may be space for more questions at the end of her presentation.
Okay, because I know one question on the floor is, do you and Ifadunke offer Reiki training?
We don't.
I'm responding now.
Oh, Ifadunke
okay.
is responding.
Apologies. So then I will prepare to introduce Ifadunke while you're answering that question, okay? Okay. Chief Ifadunke brings the strong wisdom of her powerful gifts through her indigenous ancestral connection. She's an Oakland resident, mother and grandmother who began her practice in spring of '97 when her 91-year-old grandmother, who she called Big Mama, joined the ancestors. And she had a spiritual contact with Big Mama, and that challenged her disbelief in reincarnation. And that led her to the path of indigenous faith of Africa, also called Ifa. So Ifadunke works with the ancestors, Orishas, and herb and healing energy to reactivate spiritual balance for womb health in women. Her training includes traditional African healing modalities from Nigeria, the 7-step miracle system, Ra, Seiki attunements, levels 1, 2, and 3, indigenous Mayan ancestral healing, and other healing modalities. She and Oriyomi together carry out womb and ancestral wellness work at Oshun Wellness in Oakland. And before they end their session, they will provide you with a website how they can be reached in case you're interested in
I'm
working
gonna
with
share my screen.
them. Okay. So without further ado, Ifadunke, Chief Ifadunke.
Now you're gonna have to mute yours. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Your computer itself. We're kind of close together in proximity, so it's bouncing back and forth.
Oh,
You have to mute. But maybe it's just internal here. You guys don't have hear any bouncing, right?
it's a little bit of an echo, but I can still hear.
Okay. Okay, we think we got it together. Is that better?
Yes.
That sound better? They say yes. Oh, okay, good. Great. Greetings to all my womb sisters on this beautiful Saturday afternoon, and thank you for sharing your time and your space with us. My name is Ifadunke Olayemi, and with the introduction, I was born into traditional Abrahamic practicing family. And so it was a little bit later, I was probably close to 40 when I found out about my true destiny. When I was in high school, I was in Future Nurses of America. And when I graduated at age 17, my father had to sign for me to go to nursing school, and he refused to do so. He wanted me to work in an office. That was very important to him. So my backup plan was to become an accountant. And I'm still an accountant. However, once I got into my true spiritual path, I found out that what I was sent here to do was to do healing work. So being a person of color, my roots come from Africa, and the tribes would normally do divination when a child is born to find out what their true life, their purpose was. So I started rather late at age 40. But so that was an interesting story, the circle back. Oriyomi and myself, we are Oshun Wellness. And today we were asked to talk about our practice. And I am going to tackle the piece on why Yoni Steam. All right, so why? Why should we Yoni Steam? We should Yoni Steam because it will help our physical and non-physical bodies, help us break through some generational situations and some past life situations that we've carried forward. When we were in the womb of our birth mothers, we experienced the energy and her experiences as we were gestating. So we still have that cord, that link between our birth mother and our grandmother, who carried us in her womb through the eggs of our mother. Just take a minute to think about that. When your grandmother was carrying your mother was developing her eggs. Her eggs would be the only eggs she would ever have in life. And you were one of those eggs that she carried. Okay, any questions about that? That's deep, huh? Many of us, people of color, we're carrying the generational issues, the DNA, some of the things that Oriyomi spoke on, that fight or fright, the fear. We carry that still within the DNA of our bodies. So as we activate and come up to the best that we, in alignment with what we need to be, we heal ourselves, we heal our families, and we heal our our living relatives and community. So in this image, I'm showing the powerful woman who is aligned, in tune with nature, in tune with herself, her higher self. She knows who she is, and she's able to do healing work on the planet. There were some questions about healers. And so I wanted to share that, especially during this particular period of time, there are some healers who are doing some really heavy work on Mother Earth right now and humanity. There are people who do work late night, early morning. So I just wanted to share that with you, that this is the real deal stuff. Okay, and it's pretty exciting stuff too. What is the yoni? Can everybody see my screen, by the way? I just started talking and wasn't. They can see it? Okay. The yoni is the center. It's located in the center of our bodies. Okay, so we have our legs below, our torso above. But the yoni is that space where a human comes from spirit world into this earthly plane. So whether you are a mother or not, whether you still have your physical womb or not, you're still able to create. You're able to create and you're able to manifest not just human bodies, but ideas. It's a very, 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 very powerful space. There are scientists who can measure like brain activity and other activity because energy is everywhere and everything. Even a solid table has energy in it. But the energy and the activity of the womb area is the highest of our bodies, because it's always creating, moving. When there's something that's out of balance, that is this area that is going to suffer the most when there's imbalances, okay? So your emotions, your impressions, those are your energetic cords, okay? The womb is that spiritual, and we always hear about the sexual part, okay? That's there, but I wanted to just take it into more of the spiritual aspect of what our yoni or womb is, okay? And are there any questions for that? Because I can't see the chat right now. No questions?
No questions right now.
When we talk about our womb story, and you may hear me use kind of interchangeably yoni and womb. Yoni is Sanskrit for womb, okay? Your story is that which starts actually before you come to this earthly plane, where you receive your assignments in earth, how you on heaven, how you navigate and negotiate what it is you are to learn, what it is you are to achieve in this lifetime. And then you pick your parents, you come through the womb, through gestation. So all the experiences that your mother is having, her environmental, as well as her emotional, the physical and non-physical experiences that she's having, okay? And then those direct experiences that you have as a child and adulthood. So those are that is part of your womb story. So it's important to, if you could maybe start a journal and go through yourself from what your memory is, and before sleeping at night, asking universe to show you what you need to remember about your womb story. Because sometimes over time, we tend to stuff things away, forget about it, it's in our unconscious mind. So the more we think about our wound story and investigate that and come to terms with that and knowing who we are.
Forgive me if I can just interrupt you. I just wanted to make
What is the
sure.
wound comprised of? So I'm showing a graphic here of the actual complex set of organs that make up the womb. You have your fallopian tubes, your ovaries, your uterus, your cervix, your vagina, and your vulva. All of that is the womb area. And we treat those areas during a session with Oshun Wellness, with the Yoni Steaming, along with massage, the chakras, and the Reiki. In addition to the chakras being cleansed, there's also a direct treatment of Reiki directly into this area on your body. So what Oriyomi does in her treatment, she starts from head all the way down to your feet, of clearing, cleansing, and then filling you with, and sealing, that cleansing. And then the next step. This next slide is very important. And I want to know if everyone can see this. This is a cross section of the body. And can you identify what organ is above the yoni? So this is interactive. What organ do you see? Are they responding to chat? So.
No. Would y'all like to take your mics off and respond? Does anyone want to respond orally?
The large intestine.
Oh, there. Intestines.
Your colon. Okay. So I want you to see the close proximity of the intestines to the womb. So, I don't know, is my pointer on or not? But I can,
Yes.
Okay. So there are, ovaries there, right? You see that? All of that. Okay. So the importance of keeping a clean colon that's above what is actually sitting on your womb. You see, so when we don't have enough water or that colon can get kind of heavy, right? Impacted with fecal matter. And it can cause this area of the womb can be displaced. In some cases, even hanging from the vagina. The importance of detoxing, plenty of water, and our fresh greens, okay? All of that impacts the womb health. All right, you might be asking, what is this Yoni Steaming? Okay, all right. So we're using herbs that are drawn into the tissues of the womb and your bloodstream. Okay, so herbs that cleanse the blood is of very importance in our womb health. Okay. And now there are herbs that are used for more specific challenges that we may be going through. But in general, I'm gonna keep it general and keep it moving because there's somebody else after me. That's what Yoni Steaming is, what you're seeing in this slide. And there are representations of Yoni Steaming on the pyramids in Egypt. I know a lot of people think that this comes from a different continent, but it most definitely comes from Africa. When do you need to steam? Behind any imbalances, trauma, disease. Okay, with the exception of cancer in that area. Okay, when not to steam. If you have an IUD, you are bleeding, or you have genital warts or any kind of outbreaks, you're pregnant. We do not steam. Okay, how to steam? I just put a couple of tips here for those of you who want to do it at home. We have equipment that we use. That's a wooden stool made out of specific wood that has an opening to it. And we seat you on that stool with a heat source underneath. And so the herbs are coming up, the steam, the infusion, the medicinal properties of the herbs are coming through, and it goes through your tissues and your bloodstream. So we want to keep that heat source consistent when we're doing a treatment. Now, those without this equipment, you can give yourself a short-term steam without the heat source necessarily, but over a bowl and in the, is that the child pose, moving on the ground, and then covering yourself with a blanket or a sheet. And that will probably give you a good 10 to 15 minutes of steam. And then you can just repeat the process if you'd like to do. But it's the frequency and the consistency that's going to be beneficial to the body. Any questions there?
So there are several questions on the floor right now. First of all, Sister Oriyomi wanted to mention that, yes, we heal 7 generations. She says, we heal 7 generations before us and 7 generations after us when we heal ourselves. I think that's important for us to consider. And in addition to that, she mentioned physical or emotional trauma. Is that in connection to the first statement, Oriyomi?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question on the floor asking, can I buy a Yoni steaming kit so I can do it at home instead of going someplace?
Absolutely.
Okay, and will it do anything if my uterus is closed?
Well,
Yeah, so I'm gonna let you answer that. Apologies, go on.
if the uterus is closed.
So I'm thinking that question has to do with someone who has had their tubes tied.
They're still beneficial, even without that physical, uterus there, right? It's still beneficial to your body. You still have a vagina. Most people don't get the full, sometimes they get a partial hysterectomy, and sometimes the ovaries are still there. All of those areas that I pointed to earlier will benefit, even the pelvic floor, when you do a Yoni steam.
And I think I don't know if you saw this. Is the Yoni stool sold by Oshun?
Yes, I can point you to the people who do sell the stools.
Okay.
I have a question.
Hmm?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. For the women with IUDs, is there a replacement
All right.
treatment?
Okay. Question for that. So the steam of the steam of the Yoni steam, the temperature, it could displace the IUD. All right, because your muscles, things become more relaxed. Okay, and after the Yoni steam, then we give a massage in that area, right? Because things are more warm. And so for the IUD users, we say you have some choices. Okay, so the choices would be you would go with less temperature, and then you hold us harmless from any IUD misplacements, and there definitely will not be a massage, right? The other one is clay packs and navel candling. Those would be some alternative treatments for women with IUDs. And then, of course, you can, on your own, we can walk you through doing it on your own. So we do recommend that, because we're not doctors, right? So we do recommend that with the, the blessing of your medical professional, right? We would seek that first, and then we can walk you through how to do it yourself, which would be lower temperature and a shorter term than when the treatment that we would give. Because how we give the treatment, it's a little bit higher heat to your tolerance, and it could be from 30 to 45 minutes. So, but if you're just over a bowl or clay bowl or something, then the temperature isn't going to be as hot, it's not sustained, and then it's going to cool down, right? So that's something you can manage probably on your own. Does that sound good?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Or the navel, you said two different options. The other one was navel.
Clay wraps and wound candling, where
Wound candling. Okay.
There's a candle that's inserted into the navel where you have a lot of nerve endings that go throughout your body, and it draws out some impurities there. I also suggest foot detox. I do a foot detox every month, and it definitely draws out the impurities and detoxifies your body.
This is Daphne, and I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'd like to know, which herbs should I use? And would it be just a couple of drops in a small bowl?
Okay, so it would be probably 2 hands full, okay, of herbs. And it depends on what it is you desire to address. Maybe it's not to address something that's out of balance. Maybe it's just for cleansing or whatever.
Yes, just a cleansing.
Okay, so mugwort, red raspberry, and what we have in abundance here in the Bay Area is avocado leaves. We always use those fresh in our herbal blends. After we take your intake form and we go through all that, we know specifically which ones we need to use. But we always get those fresh avocado leaves.
So,
So
if I may interrupt just for a moment, perhaps you or Oriyomi can put those, list those out in the chat so that folks will have that information. And just a reminder, we're running just a little bit behind schedule, so
okay.
but the information is really critical, and I love these questions. I think they're perfect questions. So.
And there's some African American owned places that have crystals. There's one here in the Bay Area, Queen Hippie Gypsy. There's one that I do online, Chakra Zulu, and then I have to get the information for the stools. When I get to, okay. All right. Should I continue?
Yes, please. If you could just go through quickly, that would be great.
All right. So womb clay packs. And I'm going to actually, when I do a womb clay pack, I actually do the liver as well, because the liver is the one that's carrying all of the toxicity, right? And so the wound is kind of close by. So I usually use a piece of fabric that's large enough to go both the wound and the liver. And even if you don't want to do the wound, you can do the liver, right? So I highly encourage you to look that up online. It's easy to do at home. Just some castor oil, a cloth, hot water bottle, a heating source. And I actually suggest that you do it for at least an hour, and then you drink hot liquid, okay? Also, for the sister with IUD, you can also take these herbs in tea, right? And sip it. That's still bringing it into your bloodstream, okay? All right, I'm gonna move on. And I think I talked about what to expect when we do our treatment. We do the intake form days before, and then we actually start 2 or 3 days before your session by sending long distance Reiki to you, all right? And then when you come in, you have to remove all your little piercings in that area because they're gonna get hot. Then you're smudged with herbs. And then you will sit over a pot of a dry smoke like sage before we get to sitting over the herbs. And you do a meditation, and when we do a yoni activation, that's when we're going in with the massaging, teaching you how to massage, teaching you where your organs are to see if they're in their optimal position sometimes, and then teaching women to massage, you know, your ovaries and all these different areas, right, to get engaged with that. And then we close the session and do a little feedback. So when we have a little bit of imbalance, whatever to degree that is, then we recommend that you reduce, you know, your bread, processed sugar, cheese, and beer itself. You know, you've got all that yeast in there. And there is a sister, Honey Pot. She has a nice alternative for monostat and all of that when you have yeast. So folks with fibroids and endometriosis, you want to try to do as many of these themes as possible. We have documentation where there's been some relief. We had a young lady where the tissue that sits on the outside of the womb rather than inside, it was sloughing off. And we have documentation where the fibroids are shrinking. Okay, so we also want to be careful of some of the chemicals that are in lotion, soaps, because your skin is your largest organ, okay? And then we usually give folks a spiritual bath afterwards, okay? And I talked about tea infusions and, oh, water, empty your colon. So that you get the most benefit of your womb. Okay, any more questions?
So let's see. So Rita is asking, let's see, cysts. Okay, so you talked, so cysts too, would the Yoni Steaming help with cysts as well? And I think that you said yes with.
Yes,
Okay.
fibrosis and endometriosis. We have documentation where folks have been helped a lot.
Okay, and someone here is asking, what herbs do you use for Yoni Steaming? I think you mentioned that a little while ago, what's prevalent right here in the Bay Area, and maybe if you list some of those recommended herbs, that would be really nice to have on the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. So, okay, sisters, if we're good with this session and there are no more questions, this was remarkable. Combining the Reiki therapy with the womb wellness is really, really critical, and makes for a very happy Yoni. And so I appreciate you both, Oriyomi and Ifadunke, on what you bring, the work that you're doing for women. And I'd like us all to give you, I'm sorry, there's a question. Oh, okay. Okay, Oriyomi answered that. The slides can be emailed. I suppose folks need to leave their email addresses in the chat so that Oriyomi can send those slides to whomever is interested. And I'm happy to facilitate that as well. this recording or this session is being recorded, so we will have it available on the website as soon as our media person can do the edits and put it on the website for you. And I will make sure that it's available for everyone. So thank you to our incredible healers who are here, those who have attended the event and those who have presented, and then we will prepare for Brandi Jackson Wellness. And so I'm going to do that introduction. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Gratitude, 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 sisters.
Yes, wonderful.
So let's see, I am now going to introduce someone who is pretty remarkable. I thank everyone for hanging in there. I know that we're running a little behind, and thank you, Brandi, for being so gracious, knowing that we're running behind. And I know that what you bring is something very beneficial to these sisters. So Brandi Jackson of Brandi Jackson Wellness was established in 2014, and she has been a practicing clinician for 10 years. She found that explaining the benefits of exercise, mindset, and nutrition to her therapy clients with high stress, depression, and anxiety really worked well. They had these symptoms, and introducing them to practicing whole food-based nutrition, regular exercise, and wellness counseling improved their moods and their health exponentially. She has a master's degree in social work. She's a licensed clinical social worker for mental health therapy. She's also a certified hypnotherapist, personal trainer, and holistic nutritionist. She advocates for holistic methods being the biggest factor to change how women feel, look, and how they take action for long-term success and breakthroughs. I personally learned from her wellness programs. More recently, when the COVID-19 session began, or I'm calling it a session, period began, and I kind of reached out to Brandi asking for some help managing some of the anxiety that I had, and that really helped me. And so one of my favorite sessions that she introduced me to was her three-step process to managing stress triggers. And so I've asked Brandi to bring that to today. And so without further ado, sisters, I bring you Brandi Jackson of Brandi Jackson Wellness.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, yes, hi.
Hey, how are you? Is the video okay, although it's kind of square? Does that work okay?
We can see you. We can definitely see you. Thank you, Brandi.
Okay, no problem. Well, hello, everyone. I am so glad to be here. And Emotional Hygiene 911 is a process or a technique I teach my clients one-to-one. And hey, I'm going to try not to look at the comments, otherwise I might just take all day. But how I want to introduce myself today is just to also give like a disclaimer. I am actively practicing Emotional Hygiene 911 right this minute because I didn't sleep last night. I get so excited to teach that sometimes I really can't sleep. So I have a plan for that. Don't worry, I'm good. But also I'm having to do exactly what I'm going to be talking to you all about today. So this is 100% the method I use as well as a mental health therapist and person who really wants to recover with a sense of control and clarity whenever moods go like this, which kind of brings me to just two things. One, we're going to talk about what is Emotional Hygiene 911. And also I'm going to walk us through like kind of the way I've organized the session today to try and keep it where we have more of a call and response kind of interaction. So I'm going to chunk this into a couple pieces where we can ideally look at them and then do questions, look at the next chunk and then do questions, look at the next chunk and do questions. But beyond that, I guess we can maybe go into Emotional Hygiene 911 and the technique. But before we dive in, we just finished a great session too. So I know we're probably like trying to like, you know, transition to today's topic or from practitioner to practitioner here. So I'm going to take a deep breath and invite you to do the same. So breathe in through your nose or mouth slowly. And exhale. Just to kind of reset and have a little good energy burst, because I have my tea here and I'm just going to try and take us slow, but I tend to get really excited and just run. So I'm going to try and keep pace and keep us in a good spot to have call and response, and hopefully we can get a lot of things figured out as a collective group. So I will be brainstorming our work today, and then I'll take a picture of it and send to Mama Olivia, and she can perhaps put this with the email for folks who are interested in getting the replay or the email in their email, right? So that's gonna be my way of making sure the information reaches you, but you can also grab a pen and paper, especially if you are feeling like your anxiety has been doing the most. I want to invite you to get your pen and paper, because we're actually going to be planning how to reverse that when that's happening. So for anyone who's really been having a hard time, feeling highs or lows, more depression, more anxiety, insomnia in some cases, grab your pen and paper so that way you can kind of create a plan as we go. Okay, so let's talk. First thing, emotional hygiene 911. That is a phrase that's meant to kind of say something specific, a specific experience. And so I'm going to invite all of my great friends in this session to maybe tell me what, and I know we might have to unmute from here or there, but can anyone tell me like what you may guess emotional hygiene 911 really encapsulates? So I'll wait and see if we can have one of our lovely volunteers join the conversation and maybe share your guess or your take of the phrase emotional hygiene 911.
Don't be shy, sisters. Go on and speak out.
Anyone have a guess for emotional hygiene 911? What does it mean? Emotional hygiene 911.
I would say, this is Alicia, I would say perhaps just like a daily check-in. I do something at the beginning of my day, which is I start off with some breath work, and like to me that feels hygienic, kind of like taking a shower or brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, these are the things I need to do to tune in with myself, and then I'll go from there. But those are like staples, very hygienic.
Yeah, that's a really great example of like preventative hygiene for your daily, like setting up your day. That's great. I don't know if a lot of folks have heard the term bookmarking your day, and it sounds like you're putting a bookmark at the beginning of the day that says, okay, I'm setting an intention from here and checking in, kind of doing a self-assessment. It's funny, I can see this little person, but I can't hear you. Are you there?
Hello, this is Kay and Day.
Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey, everybody. So I'm thinking emotional hygiene, 911. You say would be like for me when I hear 911, I'm thinking urgent, right now, get it done, emotional care.
Yeah, you are right. So
ASAP.
today, right now, this minute. No time to delay. We got to work on it this minute. So I love how you and Alicia combined, like cover the completeness of that, right? Because yes, it's hygiene where you are doing something intentional, and it's also immediate. I need this now before the bomb goes off, the ticking time bomb. Like there's only 2 more notches before we're incinerating the room, or exploding, or whatever your reaction is when you become so overwhelmed that you are no longer in control. So between the both of you, that's perfect. That is the exact description of what emotional hygiene 911 and the method is really about, is for those moments. Because I bet if we all look into our last month or two with the quarantine of it all, we probably all hit that moment at some point, or gotten fairly close to it, because we all happen to be human every single day. So it's not a bad thing. It's just kind of a thing that will come and go in our human experience. It's not fun, but it's normal. And there's a lot of work we can do to create a plan around it. So thank you, Alicia and Kehinde. So good to see you guys virtually. I miss you both. And then I'm gonna just kind of walk us through like the 3 key components to even maybe go deeper on identifying these moments when they come up. So it's pretty much, what is it? I have my notes because I'll go all over the place because I love talking about this stuff. But what is it? How does it feel? And when does this happen? So what is it is really about thinking about, okay, what is my actual emotional issue that's going on right now? So if you have emotional hygiene 911 work to do, it tends to be a similar, I'm at a 9.9 9 right now, and it tends to look kind of the same most of the time. So it's either probably going to be an increase of anxiety to a very high level, or a very, very significant experience with low mood, where you are just like, I don't know if I have what it's going to require, or if I just want to throw my hands up and let it be. The chips may fall wherever they may, kind of deal. So what is it? So are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling depressed? Start by first trying to identify what is the feeling that's coming up for you. So that way from there, you can start to think about, okay, what goes with what on this one? So if I'm having a high episode of anxiety and I can't breathe, then maybe this is where I'm going in to do meditation or getting some grounding work done, or maybe processing with some journaling technique. But just to kind of say, what is it? And then next, what I would say is, how does it feel? Like, how does it physically feel? In my case, I have a tendency to go into rapid anxiety if I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so you really have to have a plan of knowing, when is this happening and how does it feel within my body? So for most folks who experience anxiety, it can be located in a different part, but most folks would say their chest and their shoulders, breathing, maybe your back, shortness of breath, not able to breathe, not able to think, because when you're not getting enough air, thinking is not going to be the best. So all that to say, think about what is it? Is it anxiety or depression, and where is it located? What is happening physically for me? And then we also have, when does this happen? Sometimes for emotional hygiene 911, you will notice a theme of, there's certain places that this mood or this experience is happening, and repetitiously. So like this could be at work, at the team meeting. I mean, I know we're not meeting in person these days, but you know what I mean? Like pre-quarantine, we were meeting in person. And so there'd be like these social interactions that would cause emotional hygiene 911 scenarios. So maybe it's the team meeting, maybe it's at home when the kids are roaming around doing the most and you are overly tired, or maybe it's when you're trying to, work on healthy habits, but your friends or your partners or whoever are not understanding, or when you feel like you are being judged, or when you feel like you are being overlooked or not respected. These are moments that can build up and really create a very specific reaction for us all. So just some ideas of, when is this coming up? How does it feel in my body, and what is it? So those are the 3 markers of really starting to just know when you're having that episode. So be mindful of that first. And if you're writing any of this down, try and figure out what's true for you. And I'm trying to see if I should maybe just pause there for questions or jump into the next component about the de-escalation plan. Is there any questions so far? If not, I will talk about the de-escalation part more specifically. And I'm hydrating. I don't know if you guys can see my cup. It's cute. It says congrats. It makes me feel cheery every time I wake up and drink out of it, just because it says congrats. You made it another day, girl. Okay, so I can't tell if there's questions, so I'm going to move us forward, and then we'll have a window of questions. So if you do have any questions, or even if you just want to say, amen, girl, I relate, then go ahead and, interact with me. I'm here with you. I'm not trying to talk at you. I want us to be having a conversation together. But I'm going to move forward just so we can look at the de-escalation plan tips a little bit. So the tips actually are interesting because maybe there's 3, but 4, I'd say 4 technically. So for Mama Olivia, who has pointed to a 3-step method, now it's going to be a 4-step. I'm finding more as I work with more clients and start to understand, like, oh, this is the other piece that's really going to help pull this person into a really good plan of emotional hygiene. So the de-escalation plan, if I can say my words, are 4 steps. So if you're writing, go ahead and write, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I would say the first number 1 tool is to realize you are in it and you are not observing it any longer. When you are in an emotional hygiene scenario, moment, situation, you're in it. You're not observing anymore, and you want to step back. You need to step back. You deserve to step back, because being in it is not going to allow you to think thoroughly about what would be the healthiest method to organize or alleviate the situation. So this is where it's really important to know first, am I in it or am I observing? And then I want you to be able to write that down and do that, 2 step away is the point. So if you're in it, then you need to step away. If you're out of it, then you at least have the first part down, right? So then we're going to go on to step 2, which is to increase your comfort physically, and I was going to say environmentally. I was thinking if there's a better word to say that. So when you're anxious or maybe feeling more depressed than would be normal, and it's an emotional hygiene situation, you want to think about your environment. Like, what are the things you can do to improve your environment? What are the things you can do to pretty much make yourself more at home, more comfortable? Excuse me, the water. So basically, what I would say here is some examples that are easy and within reach for the folks who are needing that environmental feeling of comfort is like a weight blanket. Those are really popular. We are going into summer, so that may not be the right match for a summer routine, but just something that helps you feel what you need more of. For folks who are anxious, it tends to be grounding. And then for folks who are depressed, it tends to be energy. So what are the things in your environment that can make you more comfortable? And that could also be physically, like take off your shoes if your feet are heavy. Take off your coat if you're overheating your physical body. Do you need a glass of ice water? Do you need to change into a tank top and some shorts and out of your clothes that you're in because you feel constricted? But think about your physical body. What do you need? And also your environment. Maybe you need to open the blinds, let some fresh air in. Think about your environmental factors and try and make yourself at home, as they say. So then step 3 is to write it out. And so a lot of folks here, when they're emotionally overwhelmed, will not write it out and they will talk it out. And I really want to encourage anyone who really wants to have supreme health is that you want to write it out first. So that means journaling and getting your feelings on paper, trying to understand and organize if you want to, or you can just journal to release and process as well. So I encourage us all to choose first to write it out before you call any support, friend, family, even potentially your partner, unless you're really in a state of supreme crisis. But I think if you're at a phase of working this program, you should be able to do this first, because honestly, if you're able to write it out, you're able to organize. Why am I feeling this way? What do I want to do about it? What really makes me upset in this? Kind of to process and understand your emotional hygiene situation. And then you can feel free and happy to talk to any support you want, and they won't be emotionally strained. They will actually be able to hear you better. So if you go at someone when you're at 100 or even a 98, they'll be struggling to diffuse and understand your energy while you're talking, because when we're overwhelmed, we look and behave with overwhelmed energy, which usually overwhelms the person we want support from. So if there is a way for you to write first and then talk second, it's a really good plan to make sure that your support can thoroughly support without trying to, rebalance themselves as well. Okay, so next I would say eat, drink, rest. These are some basic things that most people forget to do that either can help increase the likelihood of an emotional hygiene issue or simply can help recover you from an emotional hygiene situation. So a lot of folks happen to be dehydrated most of the time. So for anyone who's just curious about the natural ideal of water intake, as a personal trainer, my recommendation has always been to drink half of your body weight in ounces in order to make sure your body is properly hydrated. And in all honesty, I would say if you're not drinking that amount of water, you are technically dehydrated. So you really want to decide yes or no on that, and then move accordingly. So you can definitely do your weight divided by 2, and then that is the ounce marker. And not to make it too much, but if you divide that by 8, that's your amount of cups. And so after this, when the email goes out, I'm happy to put like a little what is it called? Like a mock equation of how to determine your proper hydration if anyone needs that. But here's a good place to maybe look also at hydrating, and then you want to be able to eat. If you haven't eaten, eat, but also what are you eating? Are you eating healthy? Are you eating clean? Are you eating junk or processed foods? Because those things will matter about your recovery, also about how likely you are to go into an episode of emotional hygiene 911. So when we eat a lot of sugars, processed foods, or overly consume meat, and, you know, of course, with other behaviors of not maybe moving as much or getting daily exercise or movement, it can be easier to go into these phases of high mood swings or low mood swings as well. And then last but not least for this part is to reset. So sleep is an amazing medicine that is completely free for most of us. I mean, not everybody gets easy sleep sometimes. Like I mentioned before, sometimes I get like first day of school insomnia, where I'm really excited about X, Y, and Z, like the session today. So then my sleep just kind of does its own thing a little bit. And I know how to deal with it, but sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So all this to say, like, you want to be able to get your rest. And if not, plan on figuring out, well, okay, if I can't get rest now, then what can I do tomorrow to repair? Because there's going to be some need to take care of that need. It doesn't go away until you attend it. So I want to pause here for questions or feedback, or have you ever had this experience? And if any tool sounds interesting that we talk about, go ahead and give me your feedback. And I'm gonna have some water. Any questions? We'll move forward in just a moment.
Brandi, can you hear me? This is Daphne.
Hey, Daphne, how are you?
Fine, fine. I enjoy your emails that I received. Can you clarify? I don't think I wrote it down right. I am in it and not observing anymore. So I should be not observing and not thinking about the negative, but actually, I'm confused about that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if you are in it, that means you're not maybe in the most healthy space to resolve the issue. So if you are in it, then that means that your decision-making for resolution is not going to be as healthy or as ideal. Because I think of the example of when someone's like really mad and they're about to tell their boss, the boss is always a fun example, tell their boss, like, you know what, I'm done. That is not maybe the best thing, because maybe the issue could be resolved. So there's also the person who like gets to that certain level of being in it and can like catch themselves and say, hey, I'm just being reactive right now. I'm too much in this and I need to step away. So if you're observing it, it means that you can see the position or the situation with more neutrality and more safety in place.
I see.
Does that help?
That helps, definitely. I love the 4 points, definitely. They're going to help me a lot. And I got my pad out and I wrote it down. It'll be a big help. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm thinking of your blue hair.
Still blue.
Cool blue hair. Okay. Thank you for asking your question. Are there more questions, or we can jump into kind of the recovery piece? And this is also going to be a really good part for planning too. But I just want to make sure before we move forward, if you have more questions, I can grab them now. I'm doing an internal countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Oh, wait, it's fine. I see you, Mama Olivia.
Yes? No, you're good.
Pop up. Okay. So let's jump into the next part. And this is really about your emotional 911 protocol. This is where we're going to get our designer situation worked out on paper. So if you're writing, this is where I want you to really start thinking first about, okay, so it's 2 parts. One, we're going to think about what are the things that go with this situation to immediately recover and reverse this happening, this overwhelm, this sadness, or whatever the emotion might be. So what do we know that works already? What are the low-reaching comforts or coping tools that go when you're getting to a 9.8 out of 10? What are those items? For some, that's like your music, going for walks, maybe DIY crafts, candle making, sewing, cooking, cleaning, whatever. The exercising is another great one. So what do I know that works already for me? And to have 5 items, excuse me, the water is doing its own thing here, but what are the 5 items that you would say are very useful to me 9 times out of 10? What are the things that are predictably helpful for me to feel calm and relaxed? So For me, it's taking deep breaths. And this is like a whole nother side note, but it's worthy to point out right in the middle of it all, is that taking deep breaths is not reserved for when we're anxious. It's taking deep breaths is a continued process to have throughout your day, every day. Because for folks who are able to just naturally start a practice of daily deep breathing throughout the day, right in the middle of talking, I'm taking deep breaths because it helps my mind slow down and keeps my mind at a really neutral speed. So I'm not running short of breath. And so to build the conscious practice of breathing throughout the day is really important. And that could easily be one of your top fives. For me, it also happens to be music. So I'm just sharing some of my favorites. And I like to make soap. I like to sew. And I love to read and journal. So those are some of my things. So what I'm sharing and why I'm sharing my coping tools is going to pan out in a moment, because I'm going to swing back to what I just shared about my coping tools. But think about what yours might be. What are your top 5 tried and true items where when you start these things, you automatically feel better. You're able to reach like a meditative state to like allow your mind to slow and relax and be in a good space. So what are your top 5s? Have those ready as a part of your protocol. And what I have to tell you here is that you really got to be safe on this top 5. So I don't encourage anyone. Matter of fact, I encourage you to avoid the list I'm going to share with you right now. So I really would encourage you to avoid too much screen time when you're emotionally activated, because that's just going to overstimulate. I would encourage you to avoid social media, because when you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed, everyone else's life tends to look a lot better. So I want you to avoid social media, because you want to be able to regulate yourself when you're having these sort of moments come up. And then I would also say that you want to avoid overeating or comfort eating, because that is a really like a consequential place to be. Like if you are comfort eating or overeating, you will have the results to pay off maybe 24 hours if you have good digestion. And what I mean when I say overeating and like the long-term issue is that your body is going to be consuming foods that are maybe in large quantity or not healthy for you. And that does a lot of work on your body and your ability to digest foods. So whatever that energy looks like, it's just sitting in your body, just kind of hanging out there. So you got to be careful about what you're eating. And also no alcohol, no recreational drugs. I don't think it's really going to help, because if you have these episodes and you're leaning into alcohol or recreational drugs, that becomes your tool to manage. And that is not necessarily a long-term gain, because that could also increase a pattern of addiction. And we have to be able to feel the feelings, and we can't necessarily worry so much about medicating or avoiding. It's okay to, feel our feelings here too. That's actually really important, and the fastest way to get through your feelings is to feel them. So I would say definitely avoid, the screen, avoid social media, avoid recreational drugs, overeating behaviors. Just be safe. Think about the healthy coping options. And then once you have your top 5, we'll kind of pivot. So I want everyone to literally take a couple moments here. I'm going to just slowly drink this ice water. It's like a hibiscus tea ice water combo going on. And I want you to get your top 5, because I really think it's that important. So if you could please join me in writing your coping list. I'm going to write mine too. But first I'm going to grab my drink, and then we'll go on to the visualizing part, and I'm going to explain why that's valuable too. So now I'm going to write my coping. I invite you to write yours. Top 5, everybody. Okay. And it doesn't have to be in order of greatest to least or anything, just like your top 5. And it's sometimes good also to think about if I'm traveling, do these still work? So my coping tools generally work if I'm at home, on a bus, at work, wherever. So think about what travels well too, as far as coping options. Okay, so if you guys are ready, hopefully you have 5 different coping tools. And we're gonna jump into like, okay, I've got my 5 tools, and then what do I do? 2 things. So the first thing we're going to do is to really focus on visualizing. You have a list of 5 different things, and you've also gone through probably at least one episode of feeling you need some emotional hygiene 911 routine or approach. So pretty much think about, from the coping tools you've created on your paper, even in your mind's eye, what would that look like? So I'm at a 9.9. I'm really worked up. I feel like I'm about to lose control. And I know my coping skills are reading, writing, acupressure, EFT, rest, art, or whatever. And how am I going to use that next time? Because I notice that I tend to be stressed at noon when, you know, there's too much going on or whatever. So whenever this would apply. So what does it actually look like? Visualize it. Like literally, you can close your eyes even and just like visualize, okay, so next time this happens, okay, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab my book, you know, and this is where I'm going to talk more about the coping tools I personally selected, just to explain more about like the other piece of visualizing. So just like, okay, I got my favorite book. Right now I'm reading a really good fitness book. It's called Fit Girl. If you haven't heard of it, it's by Melissa Alcantrana, I think is how she pronounced her name, but she has a very similar style to me. But all that to say, like, okay, when I'm feeling anxious, I'm going to go grab Melissa's Fit Girl book, and then I'm going to read that, and then maybe I'll write for 10 minutes. So like start visualizing, what am I doing? What does it look like? Okay, I'm wearing a tank top because I don't want to overheat. Okay, I have my ice water, or whatever it is you would need to keep yourself feeling good. So you can work the same method for your coping list that you selected to really visualize it. And now let me just say the other part. So the first part is we want to be able to visualize. How does it look to be doing these coping tools when my emotional energy is overwhelming me? So the other part about this is to really lock in your best favorites. So if it's reading, get yourself a page turner, or a page turner is a book that you can just sit there and read all day, something that could really engage you. So if you're a person who selected reading, know what book it is actually going to reach for. So when you are having that emotional hygiene moment, your thinking is needing to be minimized. So like the more we can plan it in advance, the more you can save time in the moment and just work the plan, because it's all right there. So maybe you have a specific book that is so engaging, you've read it a million times, maybe that's the book. Or maybe you get a new book that you heard was going to be really good, and then you just kind of perch it on the shelf. So when you're feeling like you just need to have that vacation moment, you can pull your book and get into it. Also for writing, maybe you can create some prompts in advance that you can use specifically for when you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Or if you have, for me, I've been doing acupressure mat work, which is basically a pillow and a mat that have all these little plastic needles on it that are able to hit all of the acupressure points just below the surface of your skin, or my skin in this matter. But okay, I'm gonna do a 20-minute session of acupressure, and I'll have my essential oils going. So like visualize whatever it is, so that way you can feel that sense of relief. And I should also mention, for anyone who has insomnia, acupressure mat therapy can be really, really good for like a bedtime routine, just to make sure you're sleeping more restfully. And also about rest, that was another coping tool I said. So like maybe how would I rest? How would I have the fluffy pillow? Am I getting the silk sheets for this situation? Am I getting like the fuzzy sheets and the way to blanket out? Like, what, you know, really plan and think about the detail on it. And then art, okay, maybe I'll do an affirmation art on art project with a canvas or something like that, but to really invest in the detail is going to be really helpful. And then prepare, set those items aside and just have them ready to go when you may need them. And especially if you tend to have higher stress days, you can do this routine more often than not, even if you have to condense it into 5-minute blocks. So it's something that you can think about too. Is even if you have all these coping things and it feels like I don't have any time, which is what I work with my clients around primarily, is that concept of I don't have any time. How do I make this work? So just think about, like, time is going to do the same thing every day. We get 24 hours every day. So sometimes we'll have more time to work out an amazing and perfected self-care routine in the morning and tra-la-la through the day. And then other times it's going to be gritty, and we're going to get 2 minutes of meditation. We're going to, you know, maybe go for a walk and not exercise. Maybe we are just making it one healthy choice for food that day. But whatever you can get is still actually counting. So that's still, you know, I was thinking of like gold nuggets in a bucket. So just whatever you can get sometimes is still really good. So basically to visualize and then use that information. So once you have your visualization, you also want to do this final step. For the whole process, we're at the final step. And that's really, you got to write this down. You want to, you need to, and you've got to write it down. And ideally, you want to have this plan posted somewhere in your home or in your car, or some kind of symbol that gives you a reminder that it's right there. Because we could do all the work of learning these tools, getting the plan, but if there's no way to like look or think about it when you actually need it, the plan's no good. So we want to be able to have an ability to work the plan from the space of actually being able to say, oh, in my bathroom mirror, it's right there. So I see it every day. Or, oh, it's in my car because I have like maybe some, I think of like flowers or something on a wreath in the car, and on it, it reminds me to, you know, looking at the wreath, it reminds me to practice self-care and slow down, or whatever symbol or what have you, but also to have your plan posted would be really great. For my clients, I usually recommend like your bathroom or your bedroom, because that's a place where we tend to retreat when we're feeling overwhelmed. So those tend to be likely locations for folks who are having emotional hygiene issue. So write it down. There is so much value in writing it down. And I do have a worksheet for this. If you'd like, I can send it to Mama Olivia, and she can definitely share this in the email as well if you want to write your plan on like a formal piece of paper. The plan actually has some EFT points on it that you can use as well, but because I wanted to keep the training more condensed, it has, I didn't know if we'd have enough room to cover that too. But I want to pause here and see what questions, if any, or does this feel relatable? Are you trying any of these bits and pieces so far?
Very relatable. I'm
Yeah.
loving all the information. Yes, it's very easy, very accessible. You know, a lot of times when we think about self-care and we think about emotional hygiene, it can feel out of reach, and like, okay, do I have the resources to do it? Do I have the time? And all of these kind of things. But I love your 3-step because it makes it very accessible. Something I can do right here, right now with what I have. I don't have to run out and do too much, especially, now when we're all sheltered in place. And, for me, I don't have a bunch of funds to just spend on everything. I need to be able to go to my garden or go to my cabinet, go to my room, instead of, a spa weekend, I can take a long shower, looking at the things that I have right before me that I can use to make me feel better and to change my emotional state so that I can be a better mom, so that I can, run my businesses, so that I can show up for folks when I need to show up for. So when I need to show up for them. So I'm really digging all of this information today is really, really valuable. And I just thank you all. Thank you, Brandi.
Yeah, so happy to support. I love teaching and sharing because sometimes it feels like if we all just knew how to like take better care or like how to recover ourselves, we would feel happier more. Why shouldn't we? So I'm glad that this feels useful in a practical way, because as much as I love the poetry of life and being artsy, I want you to be able to reach out and know exactly what to do in real time, because then you can, So
yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for not putting this self-care things in the clouds. I'm tired of reaching. I need to be able to get it right now. That 911 is important. It's right here, right now. Get it.
Yeah. Yes.
Take care of yourself right now. Yes,
Mhm.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So very welcome. Thank you. Was
So,
there other or
yes.
beyond that? Okay, more questions or?
So I found that at least one person, if not more, are not really clear on what EFT is. Can you very briefly talk about EFT?
Sure. Yes, I love EFT. So I'm a certified master level hypnotherapist as well. I do all kinds of stuff because I'm invested in healing. I come from a community where healing opportunities were very limited. And I grew up around a lot of folks who fell into patterns around addiction, DV, neglect, just pain. So for me, I really love having multifaceted supports to share because the more we have access, the better we are as a community, right? So EFT is a shorthand for emotional freedom technique. So emotional freedom kind of says it all, like release, the ability to let go, the ability to kind of purge that baggage we sometimes hold on to from the disappointments, the trauma, the things we wish for, and maybe even the grief in some situations, right? So emotional freedom technique is a process where we are basically working our meridian points, which are located through our body, and tapping them. So EFT, emotional freedom technique, is really about tapping your meridian points. So there are a couple located, and when I send the worksheet, it's also on the worksheet, so you'll be able to see it. So briefly, I'm just going to point to some of the points. My favorite meridian point happens to be right here, third eye, right? And then I also really like the one right below collarbone, which throat chakra. How about that? There's also, that happens to be one of my favorites because I think also for emotional freedom technique, our voice often feels limited. So I tend to end up with this one, and then I know like I need to speak up, something's going on here. But all that to say, if you are interested in the worksheet, the other points will be there because I want to make sure I'm being mindful of time as well. But basically, you are tapping these points. Is the first thing is to know where your points are. These are the favorites for today. And you're just tapping. You can tap with one finger or two fingers. And if you want to join me, you can just start tapping right now. It's very relaxing, very soothing because you're basically allowing energy to be diffused from your point, your meridian point. So the second part here is really to work on your phrase, which is basically unconditional love phrase. And it's two parts. So the first thing is even though, which goes before whatever you're about to say, like the problem. So even though I didn't speak up for myself in the team meeting and I let so-and-so get all the credit, I still love and completely accept myself. Even though I didn't speak up for myself in the team meeting, I still love and completely accept myself. And this works for whatever experience you are, but you want to be able to isolate and identify the problem that you're having. So you're mad that so-and-so in the team meeting took all the credit and you didn't speak up. So you are basically forgiving yourself in that moment and saying, I still love and completely accept myself. And you can change the end of this self-acceptance statement to something that feels more true for you and your natural language, but it's about loving and accepting yourself no matter what. So when everybody's gone or whether someone's there or not having your back, you've got your back always. So you still love and accept yourself at all times, regardless of any mistakes, any shortcomings, you are still always there for you. So this is a technique that works really well. And sometimes in session with clients, we'll design like, what is the even though? Like, let's get real specific about the even though. And so you want to do that as well with your EFT statement. You want to figure out what specifically is my even though problem. Even though I've said, pick up your socks to my kids a million times off the floor, and I yelled at them to get their socks off the floor, I still love and completely accept myself. Like whatever it is that's driving you up the wall. So that's kind of a nutshell, I guess, summary of EFT, just to maybe do a briefer conversation about that. But since it was kind of rapid, are there any questions about EFT specifically and like designing your statement or designing like the end of the statement where you affirm self-love unconditionally. And I guess like every time I pause to like really stop talking, I tend to drink. Any questions about the EFT summary or the fast, rapid EFT?
And Naya, did I hear your voice there?
I have.
Did Anaya? I thought, okay. No? Oh, okay. No, I guess not.
Okay. So that is pretty much the full story. So like that is the whole workshop, because I want you to have something, but I don't want to overload you either. So like I try to organize the main things that are really essential to you to walk away from this training to be able to have a plan for your emotional hygiene 911. And also there are other parts that I usually add into like a workshop where it's maybe a longer span of time to really address all the pieces and parts. So if there's any other things that you feel could be an asset to add into like a future workshop, if I want to host a longer one to really go deeper into the concepts, then feel free to send them to my email, like any requests, and I'll try to factor those into future like workshops or trainings. And I think that may be all I have. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them, or any other things that you're noticing from this approach that feel useful, or anything that you feel is still a question for you, I'm happy to answer those too.
Any follow-up questions, sisters? No?
This is Oriyomi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, me.
Hello, Brandi.
How are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Good. Miss seeing your face.
I know it's been a long time. I just wanted to reiterate the benefits of EFT. So yeah, if you could do something that breaks down those steps, it's a very powerful healing process. So it'd be great if you could share more about that with everyone else.
Yes, I'm happy to do that. It's definitely that's almost like a standalone part. So I was trying to decide like, is there a room, because it is such a big topic and it's so useful. And then it's really even more useful if everyone walks away with their exact plan customized for their own needs. So I'm definitely investing in that. So I got you covered. Yes, so workshop more for EFT specifically. Yeah, I was gonna say there's another part that I usually include in the workshop. So there's EFT, and then there's also kind of a switched up, modified version of cognitive behavioral therapy that I usually add as well. So cognitive behavioral therapy is a term that's very much like a part of the therapy community and a method for clinical therapy or emotional support work. But that's also usually something that comes up in the workshop, where we are able to look at what are the stories we're telling ourselves, how can we change our response to those stories, how can we neutralize those stories, and how can we create different actions as well. So I would add that as well, just as like a full on training, where it may take like a good hour and a half, 2 hours by itself.
Wow.
So yeah. So that's all I've got, but I'm really glad to like answer questions, or just make sure to get the resources to you so you can use the worksheet and kind of see if it's a good match for your needs. But if you got a plan today, I'm really, really excited. And that is like the whole of my intention for today, is to like have folks who are interested walk away with a good plan for the next time they feel this emotional hygiene 911 coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brandi. Now, will you also put in the chat your information so that folks will know how to connect with you? Is it info@Brandi Jackson Wellness, or contact Brandi Jackson Wellness?
Contact. Yes, if you can. I have my phone just holding on by. If I move, it's gonna fall.
Okay.
But it's contact@brandijacksonwellness.com, and it's Brandi with an I. Jackson, traditional spelling. someone always sings, "I'm sorry, Miss Jackson," or says, "Miss Jackson, if you're nasty."
Yeah.
I'm sure some of y'all thought about it. So, but yeah, that's I'm happy to send resources. And if you saw the email, thank you for putting my email contact on there. Yeah. I hear you, right? You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So all that to say, any email or contact that comes into my email, I'll respond and just send the document there as well, just to make it super easy. Or you can also send it to Mama Olivia, and she will, in the email system, make sure that it reaches you. Is that I'm not hopefully putting too much on it?
That's perfect. That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
No, I appreciate. I know that we all appreciate you for what you provided us today, this great healing, these tips, because it's great to have something posted on your mirror or in your car or something. Okay, what's the next best step? So I appreciate that, Brandi, and I know everyone is feeling the same love for you as I am.
Good, thank you.
Absolutely.
All too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'd like to close out with just some, just a little closing meditation, if you don't mind. While you're there, a closing affirmation, if people don't mind. And it's an affirmation of gratitude as well, reminding us that we have this power in our lives and we have to pay attention to it and acknowledge that we really can control what goes on in our lives. Spirit is the one and only active power in my life. Whenever we need an answer, it is there. No matter what the situation, our higher self knows exactly what's best for us. It's not a political, social, or intellectual self. It is the core of our being. No matter how long it's been since we consciously communicated with it, i.e. going to church or whatever folks feel like is most meaningful to connect with spirit, the power within us remains steady. It's always there. At 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, it's there. Winter, summer, spring, or fall, we've got that power of spirit within us. At the break of day or nightfall, we're constantly guided and protected. There is within a source of light that doesn't keep a schedule 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. The spirit within us is there for us always. We just have to acknowledge it, praise it, thank it, and know that everything is all right now. It is always there, sisters. Ashe.
Ashe. All
right, so hold on to your power, hold on to your magic. We're going to get through this with love and holding the hands of our sisters and our families. So thank you very much again, Brandi, and I'll allow folks to take off their mics and say thank you if they want to do that verbally as well. So
thank you, Brandi, with the pretty tea.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mama Olivia.
Love you.
Yes, thank you to Mama Olivia. Thank you for putting this together.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, folks, so we will sign out. Be well, be in good spirits, and love yourself most of all.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.